Hello, I'm Allen Stanford,
A
Chairman.
financial predator of epic proportion, Allen Stanford, and his shocking $7.2 billion fraud.
He's an absolute crook. He's a thief and created a blueprint to build people out of billions of dollars.
For 2 decades, Stanford runs an international Ponzi scheme,
And value for you, our clients.
selling fraudulent certificates of deposit from his offshore bank on the island of Antigua.
Stanford International Bank from day one was a facade. It didn't exist. It was a Hollywood set. They weren't investing the money, like Stanford told investors.
And it's those investors, more than 20,000 of them, who foot the bill for Stanford's lavish lifestyle.
Allen Stanford, at his peak, was a billionaire. He was one of the richest men in the world. He used the money on yachts and private jets, had homes around the world, and also to prop up his empire.
Billions of investor dollars gone.
To lose $1.3 million by someone that absolutely stole the money from me is just horrific.
Allen Stanford is a sociopath.
A Ponzi scheme is a fraudulent investing scam promising high rates of return with little risk to investors. It generates returns for older investors by acquiring new investors. This scam actually used to promise returns to earlier investors. As long as there are more new investors, this scheme usually exists, but this scheme usually collapses on themselves when the new investment stops. Okay, and the next. Allen Stanford was born in March 24, 1950. He is a former prominent financier and sponsor of professional sports who is serving a 110-year prison sentence. He has been convicted of charges that his investment company was a massive Ponzi scheme and fraud. Stanford was the chairman of the now defunct Stanford Financial Group of companies. He grew up in Maxia, Texas. His father, James Stanford, is a former mayor of Maxia and a member of the board of directors of Stanford Financial Group. His mother, Sammy, is a nurse. After his parents divorced in 1959, Stanford and his brother went to live with their mother. Both of his parents remarried. Well, then Stanford graduated from Eastern Hills High School in Fort Worth, Texas. In 1974, Stanford graduated from Baylor University in Texas, earning a BA degree in finance. His career path is like Stanford started in business in Waco, Texas, opening a bodybuilding gym that failed. Then his first success in business came from speculating in real estate in Houston after the Texan oil bubble burst in the early 1980s. His partner in his venture was his father, James. The two men made a fortune in the 1980s, buying up the depressed real estate and then selling it in years later as the market recovered. After his father retired in 1993, Stanford took control of the company with 500 employees, which is the Stanford Financial Group of companies.
In February 2009, the FBI and the SEC opened up an investigation on Allen Stanford, questioning his claims of above market average returns and CDs that he claimed were safer than U.S. government insured accounts. On February 17th, the FBI raided offices of Stanford Financial and served him legal papers 2 days later, filed by the SEC. That same day of the raids, Stanford tried to flee the country to Antigua on a private jet, but was refused when the company would only accept a wire transfer. The SEC said that Stanford operated a massive Ponzi scheme through an $8 billion investment scheme and falsified Stanford International Bank's financial statements to hide their fraud. Quoted from the SEC, Stanford International Bank's financial statements, including its investment income, are fictional. Stanford's assets, along with his companies, were frozen by a U.S. district judge, and he was also ordered to surrender his passport. Stanford still claims to this day that he has done nothing wrong, and his companies were disemboweled by the SEC.
On June 14, 2012, Stanford was sentenced to 110 years on accounts of wire fraud, mail fraud, money laundering, and obstruction of justice. In the aftermath of his actions, 22,000 investors were affected, making this the second largest Ponzi scheme behind Madoff. The company is currently under the management of a receiver, as much of the money was spent by Stanford or is currently tied up in litigation. Many investors are having trouble recovering their money, and victims claim that the Justice Department has not been as aggressive in the Stanford case as in others. To this date, only $55 million of the $6 billion has been recovered, and Stanford still believes that he is innocent on claims that the U.S. Justice Department did not have proper jurisdiction on his arrest.